All right, so let's get to the SEC East. First of all, the title odds for the SEC East are actually available in the Betfred Sportsbook. Georgia, the heavy favorite at minus 380, Tennessee at plus 450, South Carolina at plus 1600, Florida, at plus 2500, Missouri at plus 4000, Kentucky at plus 7500. But again, this isn't just about who is going to win the conference, who is going to win the division, but who do I deem to be the best over-under win totals and why in this conference. And so I want to start with my favorite bet in this conference. And by the way, I never tell you to bet something I won't bet myself. I will be betting these when I go to Vegas and go to the Betfred Sportsbook later on this summer. My favorite bet, you might not believe it. It is the Kentucky Wildcats. The over-under is 6.5 in the Betfred Sportsbook, minus 160 to bet the over, plus 130 to bet the under. And it's very interesting, right? Because when you look at, say, my relationship with Kentucky football, last year I had a lot of Kentucky fans. Torres, you hate us, you don't like us, blah, 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 blah. And what I would say to that is I've never disliked Kentucky. I love Kentucky, covered Kentucky for years, worked for KSR, been to Lexington a number of times, whatever. But why I was never as high on Kentucky last year, I kind of thought Will Levis was a little bit overrated. And so I know Kentucky fans are going to get mad, but at the same time, the reason I was down on Kentucky last year is the exact opposite of why I am so excited about Kentucky in 2023. In 2022, I thought the quarterback position was a little bit overvalued. In 2022, I thought the quarterback position was overvalued. In 2023, I actually think Kentucky's quarterback is a little bit undervalued in Devin Leary. And I think it's easy to forget. College football offseason takes forever. You forget all sorts of stuff, right? Devin Leary was maybe the best quarterback in the portal. I would put him, probably Sam Hartman, up there as 1 and 1A, and maybe I'm missing a guy I can't remember. Devin Leary was legitimately awesome 2 years ago when he was healthy at NC State. For people who don't remember, 36 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions thrown in his final season at NC State. Oh, by the way, you go back and look at that season. NC State went 9-3. They did not play in a bowl game. That was still when we were canceling games because of COVID. But they went 9-3. They beat Clemson. They beat Florida State. They beat North Carolina, all in Devin Leary's final year. At that time, there was a thought that Devin Leary was going to go pro. Instead, he decides to come back for a senior season a year ago to try to improve his draft stock. He gets hurt. He decides to leave. Now he's at Kentucky. So again, last year thought the quarterback position was a little bit overstated. This year, I think it's understated. And really part of the reason why I like Kentucky so much, why I like Devin Leary and his potential so much is this. I thought the narrative around Will Levis last year at the NFL draft was unfair. What did people say about Will Levis? Well, I mean, you can't really judge him. He didn't have NFL talent around him at Kentucky. Well, that's just nonsense. And I said it at the time. Kentucky has NFL caliber wide receivers, no doubt. Barian Browning is back this year. And so to backtrack, this is why I'm excited about Kentucky, right? NFL wide receivers, improved offensive line. Let's just look at the facts. Barian Browning, as a recruit coming out of high school, former top 100 player, had an offer from Alabama, had an offer from Ole Miss, chooses Kentucky, 50 catches as a true freshman last year. Dane Key, 37 catches. The Kentucky kid was awesome. Tavion Robinson was awesome. And so I know that there's this narrative that Kentucky doesn't have elite skill position talent. They do. It was just very young a year ago. Now you add Ray Davis, a 1,000-yard rusher from Vanderbilt in the transfer portal. Let me also add this. Kentucky's weakness last year, which this is, I do think was a fair criticism of Kentucky, was the offensive line. It was clearly a priority in the portal, and I thought they did a bang-up job. Tanner Bowles, a Kentucky native, comes in from Alabama. Ben Christman comes in from Ohio State. USC's Cortland Ford comes in. Marquise Cox from Northern Illinois. So if you need to upgrade the offensive line, you go portal, and it doesn't get much better than getting guys from Alabama, Ohio State, USC. Many of those guys with starting experience. This position group should be improved. And I think if that position group is improved, the team across the board will be improved as well. Defensively, listen, you don't need me to tell you how awesome Mark Stoops has been since he has been there. And that defense really in years past has led them. By the way, I should mention on the offensive side, Liam Cohen, of course, returns from the Los Angeles Rams when Kentucky won 10 games, 2 seasons ago in 2021. Liam Cohen was the play caller, the offensive coordinator, leaves to go to the LA Rams, comes back to college football this past offseason. So on top of the talent upgrade, you have a coordinator upgrade, no doubt about it. Defensively, as I said, listen, you don't need me to tell you, Mark Stoops has been awesome. 5 of the last 6 years, Kentucky has finished in the top 25 nationally in total defense. Last year was no different. Top 15 in total offense or total defense, and scoring defense. Yes, this group lost some guys, but Mark Stoops has time and time again been able to re-energize and reload this defense. And I don't think it's going to be anything different this year. Finally, the reason that I do love the over-under, listen, with all of these, you're going to notice me talk about this a lot over the coming weeks and months as you download this show. It's the schedule. The schedule is very manageable, especially early. Kentucky's first 3 games, all at home. Here's who they play: Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, and Akron. Been to a lot of states. Ball ain't one of them, okay? Eastern Kentucky, obviously a solid FCS program. Akron in the MAC, whatever. Kentucky should start 3-0. After that, the SEC schedule actually breaks nicely early for them at Vanderbilt, Florida at home. Remember, this is a program that has had success against Florida, 3 wins, I believe, in the last 5 years against the Gators. So there is a distinct possibility. Kentucky could start 5-0 to this season. If they do, they will probably be in the top 10 going into the second half. Schedule does get tougher from there. They obviously have Georgia. Unfortunately, a cross-division game against Alabama this year in the final year of divisions in the SEC. So that's kind of unfortunate from the Kentucky perspective. But I just look at this schedule. I look at the group that they have, and I sit there and say, man, oh man, do I think things break nicely. Should mention, by the way, they do get Missouri at home as well. I think that's important. They've won 4 straight against Missouri at home. They've had success against South Carolina. They've had success against Louisville. Kentucky, over 6.5 is officially Torres's best SEC East bet